Welcome to a very special episode of Chat Cinema. I'm here with director, documentary filmmaker Jon Alpert. He had a film at the Rotterdam Film Festival which made an impression on me called Life of Crime. So let's get started. All right. All right. First thing. Okay, this was a documentary that really hit me. Let me ask you, how and why did you find Robert, Delirious, and Freddie? Where did they come from in 1984?
They're all residents of Newark, New Jersey. The origin of this film, 1984, was a lot of crime in New York City. And there was a week in which I myself personally, with the theft of my motorcycle, one other fellow employee with the robbery of we were victims of crime.
Mhm.
Who's doing this? Why are they doing it? My motorcycle was actually recovered, was stolen twice that week and recovered each time in Newark, New Jersey. And one of the people that worked here at DCTV knew of someone who was working with youth with criminal tendencies. And they were a teacher at an alternative high school for kids that were pushed out of the regular high school.
Uh-huh.
And they were at Independence High School. And she called up and she says, listen, do you have anybody who is like a potential criminal or a real criminal that we could talk to? And the guy says, yeah, the entire student body. You want one or you want 100? And the next day I was having a coffee with Rob and his sidekick, Mike. And these guys were bragging that they were really good shoplifters. And I asked if I could follow them. And they said, sure, meet us tomorrow at noon in front of the Woolworths department store in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And that was the beginning of the film. It was a real wild ride. In those days, the hidden cameras were really not so good. And as soon as I hung up the phone, as soon as I finished meeting them, I ran to New Jersey to the house of an engineer who worked for Panasonic that I knew. We stayed up all night long, blowtorching this big camera down to something that we could fit inside a briefcase and use as our hidden camera. But I followed Rob, Freddie, and Delirious, 3 residents of Newark, for 36 years.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. Do you believe in predestiny? Because when I first started watching it, I said to myself, this may not end well.
Well, there were various points in the 36 years where I believed that we might have a happier ending. It normally occurred after they were in jail and were coming out of jail, having learned how to run computers, having been drug-free for a period of time, eaten well, exercised well, often had jobs that the parole department had arranged for them. And I don't want to take and everything be sad and rub everybody's nose in this all the time. I don't want to tell the same story over and over again. But there were various times in which I was convinced that they were going to be able to come out of their nosedives and go into a constructive place, especially for their own benefit, for the benefit of their families and the benefit of their communities.
So while you were filming, I mean, when you started filming this, and while you were filming this, how were you able to detach yourselves from the subject matter? Were you able to do that, or without getting so close? Because I mean, it was really hard. I couldn't have imagined filming this over such a long period of time without really being emotionally really down.
No, I got depressed. It would only be natural. These 3 individuals became my friends.
Right.
There is a lot below the surface of this iceberg that the audience doesn't know. I must have driven them to 50, 60 rehabs, trying to help them. It really became something quite personal. My daughter spent a lot of time working with me. Everybody in my family knew them. I spent more time with them than I spent with my own family.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. But okay.
Yeah. Well, the
Really?
icon of people's lives, their birthdays, when they get married, the baptisms and things like this,
Right.
the filmmaker is always there.
Right.
But that means I'm not at my house for Thanksgiving. I'm not at my house for Christmas. I'm not at my house. Today's Valentine's Day. Delirious was my Valentine's every year.
But that's a follow. Was it difficult witnessing all this trauma, all this violence? I mean, my gosh, and just taking it all in and processing it.
Well, the violence, if it was a violence against people, we always intervened. Sometimes it happened really fast and we weren't prepared for it. Like when Michael hauled off and hit his girlfriend,
Yeah.
we had no idea that was coming. But what you don't see is that camera gets shut off. Don't you dare touch her. And we intervene. Now, filmmakers aren't supposed to intervene, but
Right.
I believe that times as a human being, it takes precedence over your job as a filmmaker. And I believe that anything we could do to help them help themselves is something as a human being, especially because we become friends, that I should do. But there was a time which I quit this project. It was so depressing. It was so hopeless. It was so repetitive that I didn't want to do it. Rob, I'm not going to give really bad things happened to Rob and Freddie. And it was assumed that Delirious was dead. The last time I saw Delirious, and you can see this in the film, she weighs 60 pounds. She's living in a welfare hotel. She's doing 20 types of at-risk behavior. And then the word on the street was that she was dead and nobody had seen her. And I'm sitting here in the DCTV firehouse in Chinatown, New York one day, and the phone rings and someone identifies themselves as Delirious and wants to talk to Jon. And I said, you don't play with me. Delirious was my friend. Everybody knows Delirious is dead. This is not a good joke. And they said, Jon, is your dog named Boo Boo? Yes. And did you used to drag your daughter and Boo Boo all around Newark as you were following me? Yes. I said, you are Delirious. And it was. And so Delirious said, I've been drug free for like 5 years, 4 months, 6 days, 3 hours. And I want you to come over here with your camera because I want everybody to see that if I can do it, anyone could do it. And that's what I'm doing right now, is using my own experience to try to help other people. And it was so inspiring. And
I agree.
I said, okay, I'm happy to tell this story, Delirious. And in fact, I went to the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and I said, let's look at the wars that we fought. We've lost around 1 million Americans in all the wars. This is from the War of Independence in 1776 to now. About 1 million Americans have died. During the time that I was working on this film, the 36 years, we've had 7 to 10 times more Americans die from drugs just in this period. Okay, it's a war. We're losing this war. When we have a hero in our wars, we honor them. And Delirious, I believe, is a hero. Delirious has overcome extraordinary odds. Delirious is working every single day on the front lines in the battlefield. She needs the keys to the city. The mayor agreed. She needs a parade. The mayor agreed. We need to declare Delirious Day. And then the pandemic hit. And everybody like Delirious, who had built an elaborate support system, meetings, psychological counseling, peer groups, somebody who you could call who could come over your house, it all disappeared during the pandemic. Everybody was cut adrift, and the numbers in the United States are astonishing. 2- and 3-fold increase in deaths from drug overdoses. And you can give away the ending to the film if you want, but it's not the ending we envisioned. And had I known that this was going to be the ending, I never would have picked up the camera again.
Oh yeah, that was heart-wrenching. I don't want to tell people, I want them to watch it. It was really shocking even for me. But talk about then going into my next question. You really show the cycle of addiction, one generation to the next, especially this one shot, like, well, I guess it's 2 shots of this little girl, and then you showed her as an adult. Do you remember? and it was quite shocking. And it just goes to show what the heck is going on there. It's like I said, back to my what I said earlier, predestiny, or this cycle. How do you end this cycle? It was really, really, like I say, it gut punched me.
So we've disinvested in the people who need the most investment. We've neglected the schools, we've neglected the housing, we've neglected cultural opportunities. And in many neighborhoods in which we've disinvestment, the only real industry is the drug industry. And if you want to engage in commerce and you'd like to put food on the table and you want money, you're going to get involved in drugs. We just got out from underneath Mayor de Blasio, who we thought was a very progressive person. He claims to be the most progressive mayor that the country ever had. And here's an example of his parting gift to us. We need all sorts of opportunities early in people's lives so that you can give people a pathway to a constructive life. Mm-hmm. Good school, good jobs. If somebody winds up having substance abuse problems, good programs that help them get off it. Okay, all these things were cut. We haven't built any housing in our neighborhood. I can't even remember when. You know what he's going to do? What he left us with? $9 billion worth of new prisons. They're going to build.
Are you serious?
If my arm was 90 feet long, I can touch where they're going to build the world's tallest, most expensive urban prison, a 600-foot jail scraper. So all the money that we need for healthcare, all the money we need for preschool, we cut it out, okay? And if we keep doing this, we're shooting torpedoes into America.
Well, okay, well, going off subject here, but I thought they were trying to loosen all these they weren't going to prosecute shoplifting. We see these scenes of people walking out of Trader Joe's and going into Rite Aid and shoplifting, all that stuff. So I thought they were trying to go light on crime in New York, or lesser crimes or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in New York.
So,
or is that just clickbait?
So we have a new mayor who ran against wasting money on these prisons, who ran for creating new opportunities. The problem is that when you attach $9 billion to something, can you imagine the inertia of that money and how many people are going to benefit from this? It gets really, really hard to stop. And so we're trying. We've had some very effective community demonstrations, parades, and things like that. And I just got word yesterday that maybe the mayor is realizing that he has to be more active in opposing this waste of money. But no, I don't know.
This goes into my next question then. Why do you've been covering this for a very, very long time, but why do you think in the past, I guess the past few years, people are really starting to question the criminal justice system and the for-profit prison system? All of a sudden now you see it. I mean, this has been going on in America for decades, centuries, but now all of a sudden it's become an issue, but it's not something the politicians and really the mainstream media want to cover. But people are asking.
Systemic racism in the United States plays a role in that.
Of course.
And the United States is a big ocean liner, and it's not easy to turn around. And not everybody who was advocating this and that has pure motives. It's not easy. And if you look at, we have a substantial portion of our electorate that basically believes in caveman justice and ran the country for the past 4 years. So none of these things are easy, and we're operating a community media center. If you look at the big picture, sometimes you get so frustrated, you get paralyzed, and you don't know what to do. We have friends of mine, coworkers who are like this, and I said sometimes the best thing you can do is you create your own little ecosystem that you control. And within that ecosystem, you do the best that you can. And if you help one person a day rather than changing things for 300 million people, then you take satisfaction in doing that. And so we're operating, in addition to the mass media that we make, we also operate on a very microscopic level. We have classes for high school kids. These high school kids come from the same exact demographic Rob, Freddie, and Delirious came from. 100% of these kids go to college.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're trying, we try big way electoral politics. I haven't gotten a lot of satisfaction from American electoral politics, but I've gotten a tremendous amount of satisfaction from taking life into our own hands and our own community and trying to do a little bit better every day.
Okay, good. Well, back to the prison system. In the film, the correction system, the probation officers, I wasn't really sure whose side were they on. Was it more tools of repression, or were they really trying to help Freddie Delirious and Robert? Or the system just seemed so callous and so brutal. Once you got in, you really didn't get out. You didn't seem like you stood a chance.
I would say that the actual parole officers, the majority of them were well-intentioned. The majority of them took it personal. And I was impressed by their dedication and their willing to. Rob's having a crisis at 11 o'clock at night because his girlfriend's gone. Boom, the parole officer's over at his house. I was impressed by this.
No.
I think that the system itself did not allow a lot of flexibility. And the thing that really caused problems is the lack of different drug treatment opportunities.
Oh.
I'll tell you how many times they had Freddie in the car, dropped Freddie off at Coney Island Hospital in hopes that he was going to get a bed and get taken in. And he calls me 2 hours later, there's no bed, day after day after day after day. These programs have all been cut back.
Yeah, that has been highlighted during the pandemic, which is something the mainstream media doesn't really talk about so much. All right, so we wanted to also say, what type of impact has your film made? It's going to be shown on HBO?
Yeah, so the first, whatever they classify as the first screening, got pretty good ratings, somewhere between 2 and 3 million viewers, which in this day of sort of chopped up viewing habits is a lot. I don't know anything about TikTok. I've never seen TikTok in my life before.
So you are.
I'm a troglodyte. So somebody did a, I'm going to say a minute review of Life of Crime on TikTok yesterday. By the end of the day, they were like 1.5 million hits and something like 700,000 likes. So in terms of the actual eyes on the film, a lot. In terms of the letters that I get, just heartbreaking. People talking about their own individual stories. Their brother died. They struggled with substance abuse, difficulties in their own families. People pouring out their souls, and thanking us for making this film. I really hope it can do some good and can help change opportunities and priorities.
I hope so. I think a lot of people should really see it. Like I said, you really hit in some places. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, okay, I don't know where that came from. And the ending, I'm not going to give it away. Yeah, the ending made you want to cry a few times, to say the least. So it must have been very hard. So what are you working on next?
So we're doing all sorts of different things. The current long project is more fun. So I'm a very enthusiastic but not very good ice hockey player, and I began skating much too late in life to be any good. But I was only able to skate when it was cold enough so that the ponds froze over and I could skate on the ponds. That doesn't happen anymore. all over the world, even in places like Russia, Canada, and stuff like this. You have to play indoors on an artificial rink. And we know through our experience that the climate's changing. And we are holding a series of hockey games all over the world. Kenya, Finland, Israel, Abu Dhabi, Singapore. Kenya's got the Kenyan Ice Lions, okay? They have a rink that's square. And it's to their advantage. When the puck goes in the corner, it sticks there. They know, like, when the guy's clearing the puck around the back, they just go over to the corner and wait for it because it's going to get stuck there. But the Kenyan Ice Lions are they're just a wonderful group of people. And after the game, they took us around Kenya and showed us the impact of climate change. The Maasai villages are imploding because of climate-induced drought. All the wells are dry. People are abandoning little villages that they've lived in for centuries and crowding into these unbelievable. In Nairobi, in Israel, the Golan Heights, where their hockey rink is, the climate is changing. This is their fruit producing area. They were producing apples, the most profitable fruit pound per pound. They're ripping out the apple trees and have to put in mangoes.
Oh, wow.
The Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on water and got the fish to feed his flock, no fish because of climate change. And it's like this all over the world. I'm going to Lake Baikal. That's why I have my electric gloves here. It's like 15 below zero there. But this is where 1/5 of the world's fresh water is. And the climate change is putting that lake under threat. So it's an interesting project in which normal people like you and me, after the hockey game, take the camera around and show them how the climate change is affecting them on an everyday basis.
Wow, that sounds exciting. When will that be? When will that project get finished?
We're about halfway through it. With the final game, that's called the last game, and the last game is supposed to take place at the North Pole. And for a number of different reasons, initially greed, because access to the North Pole, you can't make this up, is controlled by a Swedish oligarch. And he charges you a lot of money to get up to the North Pole. We couldn't afford it. Then the next year, it was so hot that it was dangerous. We couldn't get up to the North Pole because we all would have gone through the ice. Then the pandemic hit. And in the meantime, we had all our eggs in the North Pole basket. This was originally conceived as a single hockey game up at the North Pole. But people around the world heard, and they, well, we want to talk about climate change, come to Singapore and let us show you about climate change. And so we broaden this out, really democratize this film, and are playing games around the world, hopefully culminating at this final game at the North Pole.
Oh, okay. That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully I'll do a review and we'll talk about that also.
Yeah, get your flannels.
Okay. Jon Alpert, thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure. If you're in New York City, come stop by DCTV. Now, normally I've got like something on me that has DCTV, the firehouse and stuff, but we're located in a firehouse in Chinatown, and we're always happy to see people who want to come visit.
Well, okay. Hold on. We'll stop recording. Thank you guys. Ciao.